There's something that even after living in the US for 8 years, that I just can't get over and still gives me intense culture shock. For context, I'm originally from Nigeria, and before moving to the US, I lived in Senegal and Jamaica. And something very specific about these cultures, more so Jamaica and Nigeria, is we're very passionate and expressive about how we communicate with each other. And also, we are very honest because honesty is considered kindness in our cultures. That is not the case in the United States. And I would also say the UK was similar in this way, where kindness in communication is lying and omitting information to each other. Because above all, we spare people's feelings in the US. Whereas sparing people's feelings in Jamaica and Nigeria isn't the least of our concerns, because I would rather you know, and I would rather know that something's going on and deal with the emotional baggage of it, later on. And so I've struggled with this because when I first moved here, I just thought everybody was being really fake and unkind to me, because why wouldn't you be honest with me if something is wrong or you're noticing something? Like, you're helping me out if you tell me. But people just feel so much shame here about everything, honestly, that it's really, really hard, in my opinion, to deeply connect with people here, because everyone is kind of like, oh, like, let me not tell them how I actually feel, or let me not be honest with the situation. And I just can't be close with you if I can't be honest with you. And in a lot of ways, I've also felt like misunderstood in communications because people think that I'm just being really mean. And I'm just like, I come from a culture where we intensely roast each other as a form of love. If I'm roasting you, is because I genuinely care about you, and I mess with you and I feel like you can handle it. And I understand, like, when I'm coming to a new country and a new culture, I need to be the one that adjusts and assimilates. And I have in many ways. Like, I've very much so toned down my natural way of responding and expressing with people. Like, many times people have been like, you're being too loud, or oh my gosh, like, you're being like, are you mad? Like, why are you talking so intensely? And I'm just like, I'm just passionate. And like, I've had to adjust that a lot here, and it makes me sad because I feel like I can't really fully express myself because I'm always toning myself down so people don't think like something bad is happening. But I'm like, let's just be free.
Guys, to live in the United States as an African, it's not easy because now this asset thing is killing. Like, when I leave the house, when I go to school, when I go to work, like, I'm no more myself. I need to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I need to change accents. I need to talk like these people. God, it's so frustrating. When I go to school, I'm talking to my friends. I'll be using my Cameroon accent as a Cameroonian that I am. They'll be like, wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I can't understand what you're saying. I'm like, oh shit. There was a day I just went to school and I met a friend. I was like, how are you? Hope you're fine. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I can't understand you. Like, come on, how are you, be mommy? So they need to be like, hey girl, what you doing? Hope you're good. How was your day? Like, man, jeez, like, it's not easy. This thing is so frustrating because when I leave the house, when I go out, I can't be my real self. I need to switch to somebody that I'm not because I want to please these people. Like,
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. So today we are talking about something that hits home for a lot of Africans and Black immigrants. We are talking about the cultural shock and the experiences moving to America. So whether it's the fast pace, the warm welcomes, or the unexpected challenges, adjusting to life there can be a wild ride. I have heard some hilarious and eye-opening stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss this. So let's check out these videos, then I'll be back and we can break it down.
The way I was treated when I first moved up here is it's interesting. What I mean by that is when I would, just walk into a store or just be existing anywhere, I would get treated like shit. Because the first thing someone sees, especially if they're not a person of color or Black, is my Black ass. Until they realize that I am not from America. Like when they used to hear me speak, then the treatment all of a sudden changes. First of all, the treatment of how I was getting treated up here was just weird to me. Because back home, I was part of the majority. Most people back home look like me in every aspect of life. Police officer, doctor, lawyer, teacher, everything. So I know what it's like to get treated like the majority. But then when I moved up here, I am a minority, and the treatment it was just different. I still don't understand why people go so hard for race, but at the same time learning from Black Americans. I understand, but it shouldn't be that way. Anyway, the point of this video is the foreign treatment that I got. For some reason, when people of color and people get to know that you're not a Black American, the treatment really, really changes, and I hate that. I was cool with it at first because, I know no better. Now that I get to know that this was all like supremacy and just the patriarchy winning, that they want to pit the Black Americans against the Caribbean people or the actual Africans against each other, that shit is not okay. And sure, I could use that to my advantage where I could make a whole lot of friends just telling them I'm Caribbean, but at the same time, it's like, is it worth tap dancing for that? Is it worth being somebody's Black friend if that's all you are? Just because you're from the Caribbean, what makes me different from the other girl that is from here in Rochester? I could be just as nice, as sweet, as smart as anything like me. It's just she's from here. She doesn't have the same she doesn't have the same Black experience. And I think it's because of the exotic factor that people treated me nicer when they learned that I was from the Caribbean, especially from where I'm from, because cruise ships tend to go there and they're like, oh yeah, I heard it so much. I vacationed there once. But I'm just like, you were just treating me like shit before you knew I was from the Caribbean. So like, what's up? I don't know. Doesn't sit right with me.
I've been in the United States for a little while, and I just wanted to tell you guys a few of the things that really shocked me about America. Number one, public transportation is free. I stay in Washington, D.C., so this might not apply to some other states. But here, it's free. You can pay if you want to pay. Nobody's going to stop you from paying. But nobody's going to ask you to pay if you don't want to pay. Truth is, 90% of the people that enter buses don't pay here in D.C. Even Maryland, in fact, the whole of this DMV area, which I'm familiar with, maybe where you're going to need you to enter a train, you have to pay. As long as it is these buses, metro buses, it's free. Number two, I'm from Cameroon, and back home there are a lot of things that we believe are for rich people. It's not really about we believe. You need to be rich to have some kind of things. For example, you see someone maybe driving a big car, using an expensive phone. You need to be rich to be able to have them because you pay them cash. Here it's totally different. Owning a car is not for the rich. It's a basic necessity. Anybody can have it. The system has made it in such a way that you just need to have a good payment plan and stick to it. So don't look at somebody that maybe is driving some kind of car or doing some sort of things that you feel like they are rich. No. And even other things that back home we look at them as a flex. If you see someone maybe with a washing machine, like this laundry machine in their houses, it's a big flex because we still wash our clothes with our hands. But here, who washes their clothes with their hands? You don't even have the time. Buildings that the apartments have washing machines inside, even if the apartment does not have, the whole building will have it maybe in their basements, or you go to laundromat, nobody washes their clothes with their hands, that's not it back home. But three, back home, when you want to cross the road, you have to look left, look right, look left, look right again, and then you have to run to cross the road. Here, just approaching the road to cross, and then the cars just start waiting. I'm like, wait, I'm waiting for me to come and pass. And that's how it is here, because if you knock somebody down, oh my God. Another one, the mentality people back home have about the US, how maybe everybody's rich, everybody's doing so well. Let me shock you. Some of you know already. There are beggars here. And go to the streets, you find people begging. And it baffles me because with all the opportunities they have, we are literally struggling to come here to eat of what they have.
Another thing I don't understand about America is that they would give you every reason to become obese, to become fat. Because make it make sense, like junk food is cheaper than good food. So I grew up in Kenya, and it was easier to get good food than to get junk food, because we would only have like the pizza and the fries and stuff like once in a while, because that was like the fancy food, and then the good food, we'd have it every day. So people are likely healthier in my country. But
Something that I don't think we talk enough about is how Americans are not as friendly and as open as they seem. I feel like people all over the world say that Americans are annoying because they're so friendly and they're so chatty and they seem so open. But the reality is that's just being polite. And as an immigrant, this took me a really long time to understand because I would always think that I'm having these positive interactions with people, especially when I first moved here. And now in hindsight, I realized that they were probably just like trying to get rid of me. And it's so tricky for someone like me who comes from a culture that's very literal and very direct, and we are as open as we seem. I really, really misunderstood a lot of things here. But I also think that if you're neurodivergent and you are more literal in the way that you understand things, you're gonna have a hard time here. But that aside, I think this is why people feel really lonely here, because you find yourself second guessing a lot of your relationships and second guessing yourself, because you realize very quickly that people aren't very honest with you. And kind of similar to a video that I made a few months ago, I believe, where I talked about how lying to each other is considered polite here, and like honesty is considered harsh and like rude. And for the longest time, I thought, it's just a culture shock. Like, you have to get over it. But I really struggle because the second guessing yourself, the feeling bamboozled that, this interaction or relationship or person that you thought you were connecting with, in fact, just actually did not like you the whole time, is still a jarring experience to me.
I think I've just figured out why 90% of us Africans are crying loneliness here in the United States. So, there's a lot of cultural difference between the United States and where we are coming from. You know how in Africa we can easily interact with everybody. It's not the same here. So in Africa, right, you get to know your neighbors, you get to know their pet name, you get to know their couch, their lifestyles and everything. But here, it's not the same. So when I say it's not the same, imagine you being in your house and then you run out of salt. You want to maybe ask your neighbor to give you a little bit of salt. No, you will not have it because you don't have that kind of interaction with them. What you will need to do is that you need to go to the store and buy it. Then you come home before you even start cooking if it's an emergency. So we Africans, we don't like that. We want to be able to interact with people that are around us. We want to be able to talk Kongosa. We want to be able to put our mouth in people's matter. And unfortunately, that's like something that is not here. So 90% of the time we cry that we are lonely because when you come home, you just get into your apartment, undress, eat, sleep, and that's it. And then the next day you get out again and walk. So I think that's it for us. We love to gossip. We love to talk.
Okay, let's talk about some of the wildest things I've had. First off, the whole free train situation in the US. Well, some trains are free. I didn't know that. Imagine not having to dig into your pockets for a ride. Well, in Africa, that would be a dream because we are used to squeezing into crowded matatus or buses. So hearing about free rides just feels like a jackpot. Then there's the car situation, and apparently having a car isn't a luxury there. It's more like a requirement or a basic need. But you see, in Africa, owning a car is a status symbol, something that shows you've made it. But in the US, even the not so wealthy folks have cars. Now, let me surprise you even more. Coming to household items like washing machine, fridges, microwaves. In the United States, it's just normal, but back home, these are the kind of things you dream about. And if you've got a washing machine in Africa, you are living large. But in the US, it's like everyone has one. And it's funny how different these things are in terms of what's considered normal. Now, to the real stuff and something a bit crucial. There's someone who said making friends in the US is not easy. But back in Africa, people are naturally friendly. Your neighbors become family, strangers chat like old friends, and showing up unannounced, that's totally normal. But in the United States, it's really not the same, but let's just say that. And again, the issue of loneliness, well, that hits hard because in Africa, life is very social. There's always someone around, but in US, it seems like everyone stays in their lane, and if you're not used to that, it can feel real isolating at times. So yeah, America has its perk, but that warm social vibe definitely not the same. So at the end of the day, moving to a new country comes with its fair share of surprises. Some are good, some not so great, but guess what? That is what makes life interesting, right? And whether it's free trains, fast foods, or the struggle of making friends, every experience is a lesson. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Have you ever faced cultural shock in a new place? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more trending stories. See you in the next one. Bye.